He's Hacker.
Talk about a fried egg. I lasted about 5 minutes out there. I said, to heck with this. I'll do this in the morning. And I don't have any inside information. The lady that did it, she got in there. She made it happen.
And he doesn't shy away from opinion.
And I do enjoy drinking cold beer at ballparks. So if that makes me a baseball fan, then I'm a diehard baseball fan.
It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And a very good Wednesday evening to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark, 1010XL, 92.5 FM with Dylan Denmark. The Hacker Ryan Green with you. Glad you are with us on a Wednesday evening that I imagine finds most of you coasting into a long holiday weekend. I imagine some of you, like us here on 1010XL, will work tomorrow and then a 3-day weekend to celebrate the 4th of July, maybe getting out of town, certainly grilling out, heading to the beach. It's going to be a heck of a good time, and we are certainly happy you are spending part of your Wednesday evening, July the 2nd, with us. It's a good time right now in St. Louis, Missouri for the U.S. men's soccer team. They are in the semifinals of the Gold Cup, taking on Guatemala, a Guatemala team that upset Canada this past weekend. The United States finds himself up 2-0, as they say in soccer, or 2-0. The United States is 45 minutes away from the finals, where they will take on the winner of Mexico and Honduras. If they hold on to win, Mexico and Honduras play later on tonight out in Santa Clara, California. Hopefully, from a sports standpoint, from a theatrical standpoint, you always like to see the U.S. and Mexico battling it out in a final of a tournament. And perhaps we will get to see that on Sunday this upcoming weekend. So we won't do a deep dive into it necessarily, but just want to keep you updated. 2-0 United States over Guatemala at the half. Guest lineup tonight looks like this. I want to begin with some Florida Gator thoughts. And we have David Waters of the Gators Breakdown Podcast joining us here in less than 15 minutes. We'll talk Billy Napier, DJ Lagway, and more. Talk a little Gator recruiting as well. We did Florida State last week, Florida a couple of times this week, and I'll go ahead and tell you tomorrow I have guests scheduled that cover both the Miami Hurricanes and the Georgia Bulldogs. So we'll spread the wealth a little bit, hit all 4 of our local teams in college football. But again, David Waters, the Gators Breakdown Podcast, joins me in less than 15 minutes. Also, our 27th team preview tonight in the NFC South. We've already been this week to Tampa and Charlotte. Tomorrow night, we will end in New Orleans. Tonight, it's all about the Atlanta Falcons. Michael Penix, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kirk Cousins, who's still there, amazingly enough. We'll talk about the Falcons offseason with my buddy John Michaels. He is the morning host of 680 The Fan in Atlanta, and John has been my guy when it comes to the Falcons for a long time. He will join us in about 35 minutes or so from right now. So we're glad you're with us. We're here till 10 o'clock, as we are every night on Hacker After Dark. Every night on HAD, we do kick it off with a big deal of the night, and Dylan Denmark. Let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal? What is the big deal?
No big deal. It is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
Oh, what a difference a year makes. 365 little days. July 2nd, 2024, we were sitting here talking about Mike Norvell getting a brand new contract extension coming off a 13-0 season where they got the business by the playoff committee and were not let in, or the committee, and not let into the national championship game, the Final Four back then, 2 years ago. And with Billy Napier, July 2nd, 2024, we thought, well, it's a matter of weeks or months until Florida is looking for a new coach. Now fast forward to where we are now, July 2nd, 2025, 1 year later. Mike Norvell coming off a 2-10 absolute disaster of a season at Florida State. Worst season they've had in my lifetime, and I'm 41 years old. Billy Napier coming off a November in which he beat LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State, and won the bowl game, won 8 games, and now Florida carries a ton of momentum and some expectations into the 2025 season. It is literally amazing how much 365 days, one calendar year, can change your thought process. Can Billy Napier keep it up amidst, again, another very tough schedule this year? Can Mike Norvell and his brand new staff that he assembled in Tallahassee, can they right the wrongs of that disaster that was 2024? We'll get answers to those questions soon enough. I will tell you this. I like Florida coming into the year. I don't like them as much as some. I hear them being considered a dark horse playoff candidate. I don't like them that much. I think they're an 8-4, 9-3 team. I think Florida State will be better, but that's relative, right? I mean, how can you be worse than 2-10? Better can be 6-6, but I know Florida State fans, you will be fuming at 6-6. July 2nd, 2024 compared to July 2nd, 2025, the narratives about Billy Napier with the Gator fan base and Mike Norvell with the Seminole fan base are a complete 180-degree difference in 365 days. My question is this. When we're sitting here on July 2nd, 2026, what will we be saying then about Billy Napier in Gainesville and about Mike Norvell in Tallahassee? Again, David Waters of the Gators Breakdown Podcast. He joins me in less than 15 minutes. Speaking of coaches, Mario Cristobal, the feeling about him is probably a little different as well with the Miami Hurricanes. There was some hot seat talk a little bit with Mario coming into 2024. But then he goes out there and wipes the floor with Florida, and he beats Florida State, and he gets Miami to, what were they, 8-0, 9-0 at one point? Now, the season did not end the way Miami wanted to. It was a very disappointing end, just getting gutted by Georgia Tech and their run game, and then inexcusably losing a 3-touchdown lead against Syracuse that ultimately knocked them out of the ACC championship and out of the 12-team college football playoff. But I do think, despite the disappointing end of the year, it is still a very different narrative on Cristobal as well from what we had 12 months ago. And the narrative with Kirby Smart is probably the same, right? Georgia's good. Georgia's really good. We thought they were going to be really good last season. They were. Disappointing end, but they were good. We think they're going to be really good this year. But isn't it interesting? And I'm going to talk to some of my Georgia guys about this tomorrow and again next week when I have a few dog media folks on. You talk to analysts around the southeastern part of the country, and heck, even nationally. We've had a lot of guys on. People love Clemson coming into 2025. Love Clemson. People love Texas coming into 2025. People seem to love LSU coming into 2025. People acknowledge Georgia, but it's not near what they're used to. Is it crazy to say that Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs, for their standards anyway, may be a little bit under the radar? Just a smidge compared to where they're used to being? It would not surprise me at SEC Media Days if Georgia is picked to finish 4th in the conference. People could easily pick Texas over them. People could easily pick LSU over them. And people could easily pick Alabama over them. Will that happen? I don't know. Will that materialize when the season kicks off? We'll see. I think Georgia's going to be very good. Kirby Smart, to me, is probably the best coach in college football going right now. But for their standards, which is a very, very high standard, certainly, are the Dogs a little bit, I don't know, under the radar with Gunnar Stockton, now the quarterback, heading into the 2025 season? Perhaps. But again, I don't think we're going to be talking about Georgia having a disappointing year at all. I think Georgia, their low point this year would be 9-3 probably. It's a hard schedule. It is that. I mean, they got Texas on there, Tennessee, Ole Miss is on there, Florida's obviously on there, Auburn. I mean, it's a tough schedule. But I think, is Alabama on there too? I got to look at the Georgia schedule. I know they play Texas.
Yeah, they play Bama.
They play Bama on the 27th, right? Yeah. They start with 2 cupcakes. Then they go to Tennessee. Where's the Bama game? Is that in Athens?
Yeah, it's in Athens because last year was in Tuscaloosa.
Okay. So, yeah. I mean, when you have Alabama, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, probably an improved Georgia Tech team, Ole Miss. Georgia schedule is hard. But again, I don't think Georgia's going to take a giant step back at all. I do think maybe 10-2. Does 10-2 get Georgia into the playoff? Probably. Does 9-3 get them into the playoff? Probably not. And that's going to be the interesting thought. Can they stay 10-2 or above there in Athens, Georgia? So again, more on the Dogs, more on the Canes tomorrow night. We did a lot of Florida State last week. Let's focus on Florida this evening. David Waters of the Gators Breakdown Podcast. Let's talk Billy Napier. Let's talk DJ Lagway. Let's talk Florida Gator recruiting. In fact, they just got another commitment within the last couple of hours. Pretty hot streak for Florida. They were cooling off a little bit over the last couple of days, but they get a 4-star defensive tackle that commits to them earlier this evening. We'll talk about all of it, again, with my buddy David Waters, the host of the Gators Breakdown Podcast. He joins me next on a Wednesday evening here in the city of Jacksonville with Dylan Denmark, the hacker Ryan Green with you. Jacksonville, we're glad you're with us. It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
The home of the home team you grew up with.
And what a pleasure it must be to play quarterback for the Jaguars, to have this kind of talent on both sides of the ball.
1010XL.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Millard Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Millard Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Millard Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Millard Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
Registration is now open for the Circle K Greater Jacksonville Kingfish Tournament. With over $450,000 in cash and prizes, fun starts on July 13th with the inaugural Kickoff Beach Tournament that has a $50,000 cash first place prize. There's also a junior offshore tournament and one for the lady anglers. Best of all, the winner of the General Offshore Tournament takes home a Contender 28T with twin Yamaha 200s. Register today at kingfishtournament.com.
Hey, it's Carline here. If you're shopping for a new ride, you've got to check out Atlantic Infinity. Not only do you get a luxury vehicle, you also get the Atlantic Infinity Promise Free with every new car. That's almost $2,500 in added value just for buying smarter, and you don't have to sweat it out on the lot. Shop in their indoor climate-controlled showrooms. It's cool, comfortable, hassle-free. They're on Atlantic near St. John's Bluff, or browse anytime at atlanticinfinity.com.
Life is about choices and the decisions you make. I'm David Robbins with Epstein & Robbins. If you're convicted of a DUI, you'll have to face severe consequences. Walking through the doors of the courthouse or appearing at a bond hearing can be extremely intimidating. Without the right lawyer, you're likely to make the wrong decision. Let our team help you make the right decisions in court. Epstein & Robbins, the right choice.
Epstein & Robbins. Fighting for your rights since 1975.
Bueller, stay cooler with Bueller.
Hey, buddy, why so glum?
Stinky ice cubes, Jason. It's all downhill from here.
What?
The tap water in my place smells kind of funky. Funky tap water makes funky ice cubes. I meet a nice girl, invite her back to my place for a cocktail, and blow my whole romantic gesture with a mojito that smells like dog's feet.
Wait, I can totally make you way cooler.
I'm not taking your charity ice cubes, Jason. I have my pride.
Your pride is safe. Our plumbers can be at your house the day you call and install a whole home water purification system. Water tastes better, dishes come out cleaner, even your hair feels better after you shower.
Ooh, the ladies love a man with soft hair, don't they, Jason?
Life moves pretty fast. If you spend every day worried about the water in your own home, you could miss it.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Are you ready to play this summer? At the First Coast YMCA, we're committed to being your home for health and wellness and a place for friendly competition with team sports for adults and for kids. Basketball, volleyball, pickleball, flag football, soccer. The Y has something for everyone at any age. Discover all the benefits of YMCA membership and find your fun this summer at the Y. Registration for team sports and summer camps is open now. Visit fcymca.org.
Lucas Tree Service is a certified arborist and a local family-owned business with over 45 years of experience. They specialize in tree removal, trimming, and stump grinding for both residential and commercial properties. Get prepared for storm season and receive top-notch customer service from Lucas Tree Service, 904-241-3533. Online at lucastreeservice.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, another great guest on the Checkmate Coatings phone line. Hello. Your floor's missing piece.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. We have now entered the month of July. SEC Media Days, 2.5 weeks away, and the Florida Gators play a football game next month, if you can believe that. Let's talk Florida Gator football. Let's talk Florida Gator recruiting and all points in between with my buddy David Waters. He is the host of the Gators Breakdown podcast, and David's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. David, how you doing?
Pretty good, Hacker, as you said. You know, everything kind of coming up. It's kind of those dog days of summer, and we're trying to, I guess, catch our breath a little bit, but also prepare at the same time for what should be an exciting season. But to get us through that, we follow recruiting along the way. Yeah, there's no doubt. There's a lot of recruiting to talk with you about. I want to get to that in a moment. But, David, first and foremost, man, let's talk about the team that's coming up here in 2025. A lot of expectations for Florida. I know you and I talked last year before the season, and heck, at that point, the only expectation was Billy Napier was counting the days down till he was going to get fired. Well, then you beat Ole Miss and LSU and Florida State, and you win your bowl game, and now all of a sudden there's some people talking about Florida being a dark horse for the national championship, or at least the college football playoff. It's interesting how much the 180-degree turn as far as the perception of Gator football from July 24 to where we are now in July of 25. Yeah, for sure, Hacker. I think a lot of Gator Nation, maybe the best way to put it, cautiously optimistic. You see where this team took the steps in November last year, and now it's all about just building on that. I mean, and there's a lot that has to happen for Florida to become that dark horse national championship, that dark horse college football playoff team, maybe dark horse, making it to Atlanta for the SEC championship game. But first, of course, it starts with that schedule, and it's another schedule that Billy Napier has to overcome. But look, this is the team that you have. That's what you built for. That was the plan. We saw the plan as soon as last season ended. It was, hey, let's go retain this roster. Let's keep guys from hitting the transfer portal. Let's keep guys from maybe who are in the middle of thinking about maybe hitting and going to the NFL draft. Let's make sure we can get those guys back for a run. So, some schools will decide like LSU. They've recruited very well, but they aim for this year by hitting the transfer portal really hard. Well, Florida aimed for this year by retaining the roster and bringing back a lot of experience to go along with young skill players like DJ Lagway, the running back room, and a group of young receivers. So and a lot of that was in the trenches. And that's where we saw Florida, I think, really make their move last November. So it's about taking a step from what we saw in November, becoming a more consistent defense, maybe not so bend, don't break, quit, not letting up the big pass play that can kill you. And then I think on offense, you're taking steps along the offensive line to be a little bit better in pass blocking for DJ Lagway. He had to make some amazing plays in November. The offensive line took steps. They were playing much better, but I do think there's another step there in the name of pass protection to help protect DJ Lagway. So those are things I think, while cautiously optimistic, things you can look at to feel good about, and the questions that we have, some of the questions we have heading into the season.
David, I obviously want to ask you about Lagway. Before we get there, boy, you look at the ESPN mock draft for 2026 that came out a couple of days ago. I know The Athletic also put a piece together, their top 25 players in the SEC entering the season. All these publications absolutely love Jake Slaughter, Austin Barber, Tyreek Sapp, and Caleb Banks. All four guys would be on NFL rosters right now had they chose to go to the draft. Instead, all four came back, 2 on the O-line, 2 on the D-line. Boy, getting those 4 guys back was massive for Billy Napier.
It really was. And, Hacker, not to sound cliche, but, everybody wants to say, hey, the game starts in the trenches. Well, I think Florida realized that too. And as you said, brought guys back that have played a ton of football for Florida the last few years. You're not going to find many more experienced players and guys who grade out well. And if you want to go to Pro Football Focus, Tyreek Sapp's one of the highest rated defenders in the SEC coming back. Jake Slaughter's an All-American, one of the top rated centers coming back as well. Caleb Banks and Austin Barber, as you said, all 4 of those guys will be key cogs for how far Florida goes, and it's where you want to have the experience. It's where you want to have some of your best players is right there in the trenches. So it was really key, and you could tell it was a really concerted effort. As soon as last season ended, it was like, we're going to bring these guys back. If we want to be the team that we can be in 2025, it's going to be bringing guys like that back, guys that could go to the NFL and be playing in the NFL next year. No, we're going to keep them here in Gainesville.
He is the host of the Gators Breakdown podcast. David Waters with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. David, I got taken to task a little bit by some Gator fans last week for my thoughts on DJ Lagway. And first and foremost, let me say that I think DJ Lagway is going to be a very good player. And I think DJ Lagway could potentially live up to all the expectations the Gator fans have on him. And maybe I'm too much of a stats guy, and that might be true. You tell me. But I look at last year, 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Maybe more concerning is a 60% completion percentage, albeit some of that time he was injured, no question. But I look at the expectations the Gator fans have on him with his production on the field last year. And to me, David, those things don't kind of equal each other. I think that pumping the brakes may be too strong, but I think Gator fans might need to be a little bit more realistic about Lagway. Again, I think he's going to be good. I just haven't seen it yet. What's your thought there?
Yeah, as far as stats go, Hacker, I think you can point that out. It's probably still overall too many interceptions, but thrust in difficult situations, difficult road environments. Remember 2 of those interceptions. First game against Miami, and the ball gets batted up in the air and it's intercepted. The one against Tennessee. He has to come in as Graham Brooks gets hurt and, throws a kind of inexplicable early on interception. And then the bowl game too, not playing healthy. And I think Tulane had a pretty good plan against him. But, a couple of those interceptions can't be explained. Some of them, he's got to learn from. As far as the touchdowns go, I think you go back to last year, and I think it was the Kentucky game and a couple other games, but some bombs just completed to Elijah Badger where he's tackled at the 5-yard line or the 1-yard line. There could have been a few more touchdowns for Lagway that Jaden Ball ends up scoring and running the ball in for the very next play. The reason those touchdowns were scored because of a 70-yard bomb that Lagway throws the play before that. For stats purposes, look, we saw Dan Mullen do this a lot with Felipe Franks a few years ago, and I think it was to get some confidence up, but have those easy plays where you're on the goal line, you're on the 5-yard line, and just have an easy pass for a touchdown. Could Billy Napier have done some of those things as well and make the stat sheet look better? Of course. But, yeah, there's absolutely – he's a true freshman. There are plenty of learning experiences for him, and And it is a step. Florida's going to be what we think they can be. You're right. He is going to have to take another step. He is going to have to play better, and everybody knows that. So as far as stats go, I think you could look a little deeper and say, well, maybe some more here, some more there, some learning experiences. But yeah, I mean, if Florida's going to be the team we think they can be, it is going to have to be DJ Lagway living up to that 5-star billing.
David, outside of Trey Wilson, who we believe is healthy, and if he is, that's a gigantic deal for Florida, so we know he's a playmaker. Sturdivant from UCLA's got experience. He didn't have the best year last year, but they're going to have some of the young guys, right, step up, whether it's the Dallas Wilsons, the Vernell Browns, the Nashawn Montgomerys, maybe a more established guy like an Aiden Mizell. What's your thought on the wide receiver, the skill position room outside of Trey Wilson and Sturdivant?
Yeah, I like those two guys a lot, and Sturdivant as well. You went through a coaching change. Chip Kelly leaves UCLA, and they go through a coaching change, and not the best quarterback play either. But there's been glimpses, but before that, and Florida's had a lot of success. We transfer wide receivers so far into Billy Napier. So yeah, you like those two guys. We know what Trey Wilson did as a true freshman a couple seasons ago. Hacker, for me, I'm excited about Vernell Brown III and Dallas Wilson, Nashawn Montgomery. I think those guys can do really well. But the key for a breakout player, it's got to be Aiden Mizell. Like, if he's ever going to do it, it has to be this year. We go into the last couple of seasons, even as a true freshman a couple seasons ago, of, all right, this is the guy that's a deep threat, a guy that can make plays with the ball in his hands. And you know what? We did see that last year. But why didn't we see the ball in his hands more? Like when he had the big touchdown against Georgia, had the big catch and run that was called back for a ridiculous penalty on Montreal Johnson against Mississippi State last year. We saw the flashes. When he had the ball in his hands, he did some really good things. There just weren't many of those plays. So I think it's for him, it's taking the next step, but also finding a way to get the ball more in his hands, because he has done good things when we've seen it. So I think he's a key I think if this wide receiver group's going to reach its potential, they could be really good without him. But if he breaks out and to be the guy that many think he can be, you're looking at maybe an elite wide receiver room if he progresses the way people think he can.
Final moments. David Waters, host of the Gators Breakdown podcast. David, I want to end with recruiting. Final thought on this year's up-and-coming team. We'll hopefully have you back on before the opener as well. The defense. We talk about Banks and Sapp. I'm very excited about L.J. McCray. We got the flag man, George Gums, as well, who I think is going to be very good this year. What is your thought on the defense as a whole, and do they have enough in the middle of that defensive line?
Yeah, of course, took a hit there, too, with the recent Stephon Shivers, true freshman, getting dismissed from the team with some off-field issues. So certainly took a depth hit there. And that's the question for me. I like Banks. I like Sapp. I like Gums. But what about behind those guys? You go play in the SEC. It's tough sledding in there. And plus, you don't want Banks and Sapp and all those guys playing a great number of snaps. You want to keep them fresh. That was one reason they were able to do the things they were able to do in November last year, because they were on the field, and they were on the field and sharing time, because they had guys to share time with. Florida needs some guys to step up. A young Makai Burrow, Jamari Lyons, who Florida was really high on last year up the middle on the defense before he was injured. I mean, I remember some saying you had Cam Jackson 1A and Jamari Lyons was basically 1B, and he goes down in injury in fall camp last year. You get him back. Is he fully healthy, ready to go? Is Caleb Banks fully healthy and ready to go? He was dealing with an injury toward late last year, didn't take part in spring as well. But I think for Florida up front, it's about finding some depth pieces behind a really, really good starting line.
All right, David, you do a terrific job not only following Gator football and Gator athletics, but you guys at Gators Breakdown do an awesome job with the recruiting. I always look for your posts on social media when the commits come out, when Billy Napier walking out of the pyro there at the swamp. You had a lot of those going the last couple of weeks. They went from 2 commits to over a dozen commits in the last 2.5-3 weeks. Why has Florida been so hot on the recruiting trail?
Hacker, a lot of us kind of just the natural flow of things now. June is the the old January in the new recruiting calendar, the new college football calendar, it was going to happen. Everybody started signing players in June. But, Florida had a plan, and you can see already 5 offensive linemen in the class. They were aiming for 5, and they got 5 before the end of June. So they're settled there. It has taken some hits and some battles with Florida, with Georgia and Texas for defensive linemen. Florida lost out on a few there. We'll try and get that back, but certainly took a hit. And a lot of defensive line targets, when they're going against the elites like Georgia and Texas, losing those battles for the interior of the defensive line. But you start looking at the top of the class, and there's a lot to like there. C.J. Brona, one of the top 100 players in the country, flipped from Nebraska to Florida. He is a champion track athlete as well. You get a lot of size and speed, 6'1", 175 pounds at corner, and good flip from Nebraska there. And then at wide receiver, I really like what Florida's done there. A class after you get Vernell Brown III, Dallas Wilson, and Ashawn Montgomery, you go to Alabama and get the Marcus Daniel away from Auburn, 6'5", 187 pounds. Billy Gonzalez likes those big bodied wide receivers. You can't ask for better size there, and get him out of state away from Auburn. And then Justin Williams, the kid right there in Gainesville, he's going to be in that mold of a Trey Wilson, a Vernell Brown III, kind of that utility wide receiver. He had 1,000+ receiving yards last year, 1,000+ rushing yards last year. That hasn't been accomplished since Devin Hester did it in 2002 in the state of Florida. So I think you commend those guys, too, at the wide receiver spot for wanting to come behind the class Florida just signed. So some of the highlights there, Hacker, but certainly a big July coming up as well with some decisions in the coming days and the coming weeks for Florida.
And, of course, one of the headliners of the class is Will Griffin, the quarterback who just took part in the Elite 11 camp out there in Los Angeles. All right, David, I want to talk about your podcast. Final thought, what should Gator fans be on the lookout for in the next couple of days? You say there's some battles shaping up heading into 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, for sure. As we sit here on July 2nd, Hacker, you got Kendall Guerville, who's going to be picking. I talked about, some battles with Texas and some battles with Georgia for interior defensive linemen. Florida's in another one here, battling Texas for defensive lineman. Kendall Guerville from Fort Myers. He's a 4-star defensive lineman. Florida really needs him. Florida has got to get him after losing out on some other interior defensive line. Florida seems to be the team to beat, and Kendall Guerville should be ended up picking the Gators there. Some more decisions on today. Sedarian Morgan, a wide receiver, expected to pick Alabama. He's a 5-star wide receiver. He put Florida in his top 2 after his official visit with Alabama, but his home state, Alabama, is expected to be the pick. There, Trenton Henderson, an edge player Florida was really trending for as recently as a couple of weeks ago. It does look like Florida will lose him to Texas, but Florida does have an edge player in Jalen McCoy from the state of Mississippi already in the class. And then July 3rd, you got 4-star cornerback C.J. Hester. I think Florida's trending for him. And then go all the way forward to July 12th, tight end Hezy Kemp from Brunswick, right up the road in Brunswick. About a 300-pound tight end, Hacker. Wow. So it's interesting. Some people think he's an offensive lineman at the next level, but he really wants to play tight end. Florida's selling him on tight end with offensive coordinator Russ Callaway. So we'll see. I expect Florida to get him. And then recently, Florida maybe going into IMG for DQ Forkpa, a 4-star linebacker. That's July 12th as well with Hezy Kemp. So Florida looking good for that date. So those are the confirmed dates. There's some other ones floating around that I'm not committing July, but as far as the confirmed July decisions, those are the ones we're looking for.
Crazy how the recruiting calendar has completely changed, where June and July is just a huge recruiting part now, where 10 years ago it was nothing, as you mentioned earlier. David, tell us about the Gators Breakdown podcast, man, what you have coming up in the coming days and weeks.
Yeah, following recruiting, of course, and then, preseason magazines have been hitting out, so just dissecting those and, seeing the talent level for Florida. We recently hit on all those anonymous coaches, what they had to say about Florida, some good, some bad. So you're kind of just trying to, one day it might be recruiting, one day it might be pure football, Hacker. It's enough to keep us busy even in these dog days of summer.
David Waters, the host of the Gators Breakdown podcast. David, I know you're busy. Thank you for the time. Happy 4th of July to you and your family.
You too, Hacker.
There you go, David Waters of the Gators Breakdown podcast. Always enjoy David for joining us here on Hacker After Dark. We recorded that a little earlier, some scheduling situations there, but he mentioned Kendall Guerville, the 4-star defensive lineman from, I believe, Fort Myers, and Florida did ultimately land him a couple of hours ago. He chose Florida over a host of schools, including Florida State and Texas. So that's a big win for Florida. They had lost out on some defensive linemen in recent days, so they really wanted this young man, this 4-star from the South Florida area, and they ultimately do land him. And as David said, and I've talked about this, how the recruiting calendar has completely changed. I mean, as recently as 5 years ago, heck, when I covered it for, those 3 years in 2016, 17, and 18, June and July, nothing happened. That was almost the dead period of recruiting. And now it's one of the hottest points of recruiting. You're seeing commitments, huge commitments, literally every single day leading up into August, which obviously is the start of high school football around the country. So again, thank you to David Waters of the Gators Breakdown Podcast. Back into the world of the National Football League. It's been our NFC South previews this week. We've already made stops in Tampa and in Charlotte. Tomorrow night, we will go to New Orleans. Tonight, it's all about the Atlanta Falcons. Can Atlanta challenge Tampa for the NFC South with Michael Penix, Drake London, Bijan Robinson? Of course, they drafted a couple of SEC guys and Jalen Walker and also Pierce, the defensive end from Tennessee, James Pierce. Let's talk about all of it with my guy up in Atlanta, John Michaels. He's the morning show host for 680 The Fan up in Atlanta, and he will join me next as our NFC South preview continues here on a Wednesday evening in Northeast Florida. We're glad you're with us right here on Hacker After Dark.
The heat is hard to beat.
Sometimes I wonder what I'm gonna do, 'cause there ain't no cure for the summertime blues.
1010XL, your cure for the summertime blues.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
Brackish Vodka, the spirit of the sportsman and proud partner of the Jaguars, is poured at Southern Coast Seafood, now open Mondays. Enjoy crab for $12.99 a pound on Tuesdays. Drink Brackish Wednesdays with $1 oyster on the half shell. Brackish Vodka is the first clean craft vodka made right here in Jacksonville for whatever your sport is. If your sport is crab at Southern Coast, your vodka is Brackish. Southern Coast Seafood, now open Mondays. Brackish Vodka, proud partner of the Jaguars.
Is your backyard ready for the big leagues? Pick it here for Surfside Pools. Serving Northeast Florida since 1977, they have the home field advantage. Family owned and operated, offering weekly pool service, equipment repairs, commercial maintenance, remodels, and new pool construction. Let Surfside Pools make your backyard dreams a reality. Are you ready to float happy? Visit SurfsidePools.net or call 904-246-2666. Surfside Pools and Spas, your hometown MVP.
License number CPC 044080.
It's Mike Dempsey, and now's the time to get your roof hurricane ready with Apex Roofing and Contracting of Jacks Beach. Look, our rainy season is no joke, and if your roof's got damage, leaks, or it's just plain worn out, don't wait. Apex is local, dependable, and will show up on time using only premium materials with ironclad warranties. No shortcuts, no stress, just quality work you can trust. Skip the storm season scramble. Reach for the peak with Apex Roofing and Contracting in Jacks Beach or visit apexroofingfl.com.
If you need a game plan for the weekend, I'll tell you my takes for some of the weekend's best options. 1010XL's Dan Hicken here. Watch for Musings with the Media Mogul on YouTube and Facebook. Turned on by Tucker Equipment Rentals in Neptune Beach.
With Lee and Kate's Glass, you're gonna see a big difference.
Hey, it's Frank Frangie. Look, when it comes to glass needs around the home, there's one name I trust, Lee & Kate's. It's local, family-owned, and they've been part of our community since 1926. They've taken great care of me over the years, and I know they'll do the same for you. Visit LeeandKatesGlass.com.
With Lee and Kate's Glass, you're gonna see a big difference.
Hey, Jacksonville Hicken here. I've been around the block or two, and Checkmate Coatings is who I call for my own place. They're my new MVP for stunning, long-lasting floors.
Brendan here with Checkmate Coatings. No massive overhead means top prices on top quality pool decks,
driveways, garages, and patios too. Visit CheckmateCoatings.com today. Checkmate Coatings, your floor's missing piece.
Checkmate Coatings, your floor's missing piece.
What Major League Baseball team has never been to a World Series? The answer next.
Southern Oak Insurance is proud to continue offering coverage statewide. Financial stability makes Southern Oak Insurance a wise choice for your homeowner's insurance needs. Log on to southernoak.com.
Our family protecting yours. Southern Oak Insurance.
The Seattle Mariners, who were founded in 1977, have never been to the World Series.
Southern Oak Insurance. Our family protecting yours.
Hi, I'm Sean Monahan from Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach. Since 1977, we've been Jacksonville's local family jeweler with a beautiful selection of fine jewelry and certified diamonds. But we're also Jacksonville's leading buyer of gold, silver, and diamonds from the public. Gold's recently hit an all-time high at over $3,000 per ounce. Pay bills, buy something fun. Now is the time to sell your gold for cash and get top dollar, or trade it in for a new piece and get even more at Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, another great guest on the Checkmate Coatings phone line. Hello. Your floor's missing piece.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, your home for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we are glad you are with us. One division per week leading up to the start of Jaguar training camp. This week, it's going to be all about the NFC South. We will make stops in New Orleans, in Carolina, and in Tampa Bay. Right now, it's all about the Atlanta Falcons. A couple of first-round picks to help on defense. Michael Penix coming into another year. What is the outlook for Atlanta in 2025? Our guy in the ATL for a long time has been John Michaels. You hear him on 680 The Fan up in Atlanta, and John's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. John, how we doing, bud?
Doing good. You know, I know when I talk to you, that means we're normally into the season or really close to football season. I can smell it. The air outside's hot. People are ready to put on some Falcons red and black, and I'm ready for football in about 3 weeks.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. The Jaguar rookies report in 3 weeks. Actually, the veterans do as well, and the Jaguars will be on the field the week of July the 23rd. All right, Atlanta. I guess maybe the big story, and we'll get to all the acquisitions, but the biggest story, I guess, to me, John, is who is still in Atlanta, and his name is Kirk Cousins. How much of a surprise is that to you?
It's a huge surprise. I thought, you know, about the time that Michael Penix was named the starter in December, the days were going to be numbered for Kirk Cousins, and we can kind of go chronologically. Season ends. Then all of a sudden you get to Super Bowl week, and Kirk Cousins is complaining to everybody about how he was hurt during the regular season, even though he told us the entire regular season he was never hurt, and he just got benched, you know, basically for general ineffectiveness. Then he started talking about and having meetings with the owner that he wants to be traded somewhere where he can be a starter. He didn't want to just go anywhere. Falcons had to pick up a $10 million bonus. It was part of, you know, his contract. That comes and goes. Then you get to the NFL draft. He's still not traded. Then you start seeing teams pick up free agents across the league and starting jobs diminish. And the last hope we really had was potentially the Pittsburgh Steelers, but then Aaron Rodgers signs there to be the starting quarterback. So the Falcons, knowing that the contract and the money was already going to be there, the dead money was going to be there regardless, you're now stuck with Kirk Cousins for another year. He didn't show up for any of the voluntary stuff, but when they had mandatory minicamp, he was there. He was a part of practice. Apparently, he's going to be a mentor to Michael Penix. We'll see how it all plays out, but for right now, the Falcons have the most expensive backup quarterback in the NFL.
It's obviously Michael Penix's team. What was your thought on him last year? What's your expectation for him in 2025?
You know, I'll go back to college. I really liked Michael Penix at Washington. I thought the offense with Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb was fantastic. His senior year, they go all the way to a national title game, and he carries them as far as he can. And you run into a better team, you know, to ultimately lose the championship game that year to Michigan. But getting to Atlanta, you know, originally it was supposed to be a 2-year plan, 2 years to sit in the bench, and then by year 3, you're going to be the starter. We saw with the Kirk Cousins injuries, 1 touchdown, 9 interceptions, that it was going to be Penix's team sooner rather than later. And I thought he played well. Now, were there things he could improve on? Of course. His accuracy's not there. He completed less than 60% of his passes. But, Hacker, the thing I was most impressed with was 2 games at the end of the year, one on the road in Washington, one at home against Carolina that ultimately meant nothing. Both games, the Falcons were down a touchdown with less than 2 minutes to play. In both games, Michael Penix led them down the field to score a game-tying touchdown and give them an opportunity to win the ball game. I think the kid's got a bright future, and I think he is going to be your starter for the next 10 to 15 years.
John Michael, 680 The Fan in Atlanta, as our NFC South preview continues, focusing on the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, the skill position around him, John, I love Drake London. I love everything about Drake London. Bijan Robinson, obviously. You and I have the Kyle Pitts talk every year. I mean, will this finally be the year for Kyle Pitts? Who knows at this point? I mean, how would you assess the skill position around Penix?
The potential to be elite. You know, you mentioned 2 guys. Obviously, Bijan, probably a top 5 back in the NFL right now. And Drake London, you could argue right now, probably a top 10 receiver in the league. Throw in Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney's, 8 yards short a year ago of being a 1,000-yard receiver on the other side of Drake London, and he didn't play in the final game of the season. So if he plays against Carolina, he goes over 1,000 yards as well. Kyle Pitts is always the enigma. You know, we have no idea what we're getting. The Falcons picked up the 5th-year option a couple of years ago. Last year, he was like 60 grabs for 600 yards. I think he had 4 touchdowns, which was a career high. There's moments where he flashes, that he'll run down the seam, and he looks like he was at the University of Florida, which is unguardable. Then there's times he's unplayable. You watch him, he's kind of loafing in and out of routes. He's not great blocking. Their offense requires a lot of edge blocking out of the tight ends. And sometimes, and I know it's not the case because I've talked to Kyle, but there's sometimes the impression is that he just doesn't love football. I know that's not the case, but watching him on the field, there's times he's not very crisp in and out of routes. He doesn't seem like he wants a whole lot of contact one way or the other. I don't know what you really have with Kyle Pitts. I think this is a make or break year for him, not only in Atlanta, but maybe to stay in the league as a bona fide starter, which is crazy to think 5 years into his career, that's where he's at. Falcons right now, I don't know how much more you can get out of them, partly because you have all of these other weapons that make a lot of plays. I think Kyle Pitts is at best the 4th option on this offense, but I think they've got a chance to be 24 to 25 points a game good, which would put them inside the top 7 in the league.
You know, I'm not sure how often you're discussing Jamal Agnew there on 680 The Fan, but Jamal Agnew was a fan favorite here in Jacksonville. He signed with Atlanta this offseason. What is the plan for Agnew up there?
Yeah, I think it's going to be return game being number 1, and then a chance to maybe be the 4 or the 5 receiver. Ray McCloud, who's a guy they brought in last year to be the return guy, ended up being the number 3 because you had went out and got Rondale Moore. He ended up being hurt. He never played for the team, and now he's gone. Ray should be the 3. Agnew might be the 4, but they also brought in an undrafted free agent by the name of Nick Nash. He was the leading receiver in all of college football out of San Jose State, and I think a lot of people feel he's going to fight to have jobs. So, you know, the question now becomes, do they keep 6 receivers? If they keep 6, Nash probably makes the team. They have a kid named Cardero Hodge, who's kind of a special teams maven, running down on kicks and gunner on punt coverage. Really, really fast guy that'll probably make the team. And then Agnew slides in somewhere in there. So he's going to have a chance. I don't know how many balls are going to come his way because, again, you've got so many weapons on this offensive side.
Couple of more for John Michael, 680 The Fan in Atlanta, as our NFC South preview continues. John, on the defensive side of the ball, certainly Raheem Morris's bread and butter. And from an outside point of view, obviously it appears the Falcons wanted to help that pass rush. They bring in Leonard Floyd, they get Jalen Walker, and they trade back into round 1 to get James Pierce.
It's about damn time, as I quote LeBron James. I've been around this team now 20 some odd years. Every year we go into the draft, and it's the same question. Can we ever get somebody off the edge that'll go get a quarterback and put their ass on the ground? They've been the worst sack team over the last 5 or 6 or 7 years. They lose their best interior presence this year, Grady Jarrett, in a salary cap move. We hated to see that happen, but eventually you had to get younger and better on the defensive side of the ball. Walker should not have been there at number 15. That was a kid most people had slotted 7, 8, 9, and the Falcons were ecstatic that he ended up being drafted there. Side note, stupid thought of the Falcons. First time they've ever drafted a University of Georgia player in the first round.
Wow.
How that's possible when the, Flowery Branch, where we have training camp in the Falcons facility in Athens, Georgia, are about 40 miles apart, but that's the reality of where they are. Then you're aggressive. You trade next year's first to get back in to go get somebody in James Pierce Jr. Again, a guy who had top 15 grade. There were some questions about his attitude and work ethic. Whatever. Go put a quarterback on the ground. I saw elite speed coming off the edge at Tennessee, a guy that had a great bend. So you do that. And then you bring in Leonard Floyd, kind of underappreciated, a guy that's multiple years in a row has had 8.5 or more sacks, which would have led the Falcons every single year. So you bring him in as a veteran presence, throw that in with some young guys up front, Brandon Dorless, Braylon Trice a year ago, who was drafted out of Washington, missed the entire year with a knee injury. He's coming back. I think there's potential for them finally to be able to get a pass rush for the first time, maybe ever, in franchise history.
Atlanta and Jacksonville were the two teams that traded first away in 2026. John, I can tell you down here, the fan base doesn't care. They're ecstatic about Travis Hunter. Were the Falcon fans upset about trading that first away?
Always, they're cynics in any fan base. And I saw you dealing with it the other day, talking about DJ Lagway, which was hilarious. Like,
yeah.
My goodness, they're on social media like, and he's the second coming to Peyton Manning, and he's whatever. We'll get to that in a little bit. But Falcon fans were like, well, we can't give up next year's first. If James Pierce Jr. can do what Jared Verse did for the LA Rams, and now all of a sudden next year's first doesn't matter. You got your first round pick a year early. That's the way that I look at it. But there are fans that are pissed off about it and everything. Guess what? When you miss the playoffs 7 straight years like the Falcons have, you have a reason to be questioning everything that the front office does.
All right, John, as we look around the division, I've talked to a lot of people this week around the NFC South. The vibe I get, Tampa's the favorite. Carolina might be improved. Atlanta is probably Tampa's closest competitor. And New Orleans, who really knows, with a rookie quarterback. Is that kind of the way you see it?
Yeah, New Orleans is going to suck. I'm going to say it very nicely because I can't stand them anyway. They have no quarterback, which means you can't win in the NFL. They're an aging bad team, so they're out. Carolina got better down the stretch. Relatively speaking, they went 2-1 over their final 3 games, and Bryce Young looked like a bona fide NFL starter. But I still look at them, and I just don't see much to scare me. The problem is the Falcons year in and year out split with Carolina when they need to be sweeping them. They're probably third. I think the Falcons are still number 2, although the caveat is they beat Tampa both times they played last year. 2 wild games. Kirk Cousins threw for 500 yards in one game here in Atlanta. You had a crazy game down in Tampa that the Falcons came back and won. So they've shown ability to beat Tampa. The problem is Tampa doesn't lose to the crappy teams across the division. The Falcons, until proven otherwise, continue to lose to bad teams. So I think it'll be a dogfight between those two to win the division. Something's got to give. We can't let Tampa go to another playoff and sit out, because I'm going to tell you now, if the Falcons don't make the playoffs for the 8th straight year, everybody in the organization, from Freddie the Falcon to Arthur Blank to everybody in between, guys in the Ring of Honor, they're all up for grabs. Like, we've got to make the damn playoffs for the first time in 8 years.
John Michaels, 680 The Fan up in Atlanta. For people that don't know, John might be the biggest Miami Hurricane fan I know, outside of Leon Searcy, of course. John, what's your thought on the U, man? Carson Beck, Jacksonville's own, is down there. I've made the point the entire offseason, we're going to know pretty quick with games against Notre Dame and Florida in the first 4 weeks of the year.
And then throw in Florida State and Louisville the 2 weeks after that. So their first half of the season's a bear. I love the fact that you get Carson Beck in here. The tear down of Carson Beck has been one of the most oversaturated, overstated things that I have seen in a long time. Now, did he perform last year the way that he was supposed to? No. But if you really break it down, it was a 4-game stretch that did him in, where he didn't play well. And I think Georgia went 3-1 in those games. The only game they lost was to Alabama in a wild game that they lose 42-35 late in that one. He also finished the year 11 touchdowns, no interceptions over his last 3 games, 1 against Tennessee, 1 against Georgia Tech. I think 1 was against UMass. You're talking about a kid who was 28-3 as a starter in the SEC, or 25-3, whatever it may have been. That's elite. And I know Georgia has elite players. You say, hey, anybody could play quarterback at Georgia and win games. Maybe true, but not necessarily true a year ago. Georgia had a mediocre offensive line to their standards, no running game to speak of, and the receivers led the nation in drops. Miami's got an elite offensive line led by Francis Mauigoa, who will be a top 10 pick a year from now. They've got a solid, I'd say even really good running back game with Mark Fletcher and Jordan Lyle. Receivers are going to be a work in progress because it's a bunch of young guys, highly recruited, but young guys who have never taken snaps. I think Miami's got a chance to be 10-11, playoff good. And I'm not saying that just as a Miami fan. You've heard me crap on many coaches. Mario Cristobal has got this thing going in the right direction. Recruiting is great. Transfer portal's fantastic. Talent is on campus. He stacked it for multiple years. And in the offseason, he got rid of the biggest cancer a year ago. Lance Guidry simply cost them being in a playoff and a chance at a national title with the worst defense I've seen since Mark D'Onofrio was on campus. They also realized defensive backfield was putrid. They brought in like 7 transfer kids that are going to come in and make their hay. And then the new defensive coordinator and Corey Heatherman had Minnesota in the top 20 of college football defense, and I can't name a single player that played at the University of Minnesota. So with all that being said, I think Miami has a real good chance to be 10-2, 11-1. Obviously, that first month is going to be fantastic, but guess what? Those games are at home. Those games are down at Hard Rock Stadium. I've got my season tickets. I've already got my flight set for Notre Dame. I've got my flight set for Florida. And I just got to figure if I'm going to Tallahassee or not. I'm excited about Miami football again. And I think the Canes unequivocally will be in Charlotte for the ACC title game, and I guarantee they're in the college football playoff this upcoming year.
You're a diehard. There's no question about it. Final question, John, 60 seconds. You saw every snap of Cam Ward last year. He goes to Tennessee. The Jaguars obviously are going to have to deal with him for the coming years. What is your thought on Ward as an NFL prospect?
The kid's going to be a star. I didn't know what we were getting from Washington State. Like, I'd seen highlights like everybody else had watched a game or two. I play college fantasy, so he scored a ton of points. What we got at Miami was program changing, and it's criminal that Lance Guidry's defense couldn't even be halfway decent, or Miami would have been in the playoffs and you really would have got to see it. It's not just the on the field, it's the off the field. He's already talked about being in Tennessee. He's at practice at 5 o'clock in the morning. He's the first man in. It's not cliche. That's what you want out of a rookie quarterback. I'm worried this year they don't have a ton of weapons. It's Calvin Ridley and not much else up there in Tennessee. I think that kid's got multiple-time Pro Bowler, multiple-time, deep playoff runs, and I think they've got an absolute star in Tennessee to build around.
John Michaels, he's our guy in Atlanta, 680 The Fan. You hear him every morning up there in the ATL. John, I know you're busy. Thank you for the time, brother. We'll do it again soon.
Anytime, my friend.
Chase Elliott through the dog leg.
Hey, I'm Chase Elliott, driver of the number 9 Napa Chevrolet.
Elliott's going to win at Talladega.
And you're listening to 1010XL Jack Sports Radio.
Got a clogged drain that just won't quit? It's time to bring in the pros. Duck Duck Rooter.
I called Duck Duck Rooter for a clogged kitchen drain. They showed up fast and had it cleared in no time. No mess, no stress.
We've seen it all. Grease clogs, hairballs, mystery goo from the deep. Whatever's blocking your pipes, we'll get it flowing again. Call 904-862-6769 now to schedule your drain cleaning service. That's 904-862-6769 or online at duckduckrooter.com. When you're stuck, call the duck.
Here's your 1010XL First Coast Community Calendar.
The Hometown for Heroes Home Buyers Program helps you get your down payment and closing costs paid. Call to learn more. 574-7180.
City Rescue Mission has been providing food, clothing, and love for over 70 years to the homeless in Jacksonville. If someone you know is struggling, City Rescue Mission is here to help. Learn more about the City Rescue Mission at crmjax.org.
If you know someone with cancer and no insurance, call the U.S. Uninsured Helpline at 800-234-1317.
The Creeks Athletic Association in St. Johns County offers a variety of sports for children 5 to 18. Learn how to get your child involved at caale.org.
Builders Care is looking for volunteers, and there are so many ways you can help. Find out how at builderscare.org.
If you're involved in a community event and you'd like us to help spread the word, find out how at 1010XL.com.
Hayes Carline here. If you're shopping for a new ride, you've got to check out Atlantic Infinity. Not only do you get a luxury vehicle, you also get the Atlantic Infinity Promise Free with every new car. That's almost $2,500 in added value just for buying smarter, and you don't have to sweat it out on the lot. Shop in their indoor, climate-controlled showrooms. It's cool, comfortable, hassle-free. They're on Atlantic near St. John's Bluff, or browse anytime at AtlanticInfinity.com.
WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Lucas Tree Service is a certified arborist and a local family-owned business with over 45 years of experience. They specialize in tree removal, trimming, and stump grinding for both residential and commercial properties. Get prepared for storm season and receive top-notch customer service from Lucas Tree Service, 904-241-3533. Online at lucastreeservice.com.
Frank Frangie here for Coil Fencing. Jacksonville is full of memorable sports moments. Remember Hal Sutton when he famously said, "Be the right club today"? Well, that's what Coil Fencing delivers. The right fence today. And they've been delivering the right fencing for both commercial and residential properties for nearly 100 years. If you're in the market for a new fence, call Coil & Sons today at 904-356-4821 or visit coiljacks.com. That's COYLE jacks.com.
Tucker Equipment Rental in Neptune Beach. You just don't rent quality machines, you rent quality customer service. Hi, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Dave. Tucker Equipment Rental has been supplying Jacksonville with equipment and event rental for over 50 years.
From commercial and homeowner projects, we've got what you need: lifts, dirt equipment, and landscape equipment.
And don't forget about event rentals, from festivals to weddings to backyard barbecues.
Local, knowledgeable, and always ready to help.
Tucker Equipment Rentals.
You need it, we've got it, come see us.
Hey, this is Coach Jason Gibson of your Jacksonville Sharks. I know the importance of a strong game plan, and that's exactly what I've got with Clay Solar Installation Partners. They did the install of the solar panels at my house, and I couldn't be happier. Lower energy bills, clean power, and a winning team that made the whole process easy. If you're looking to save money and go solar, trust the pros at Clay Solar. Call Karen at Clay Solar today and tell them that Coach Gibson sent you.
Playoff-bound Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp are in full swing at the newly renovated VyStar Ballpark. Your home for affordable family fun. Tickets start at just $5. Fireworks after every Friday home game, and kids round the bases after Sunday games. Log on to jackshrimp.com for tickets and details. Jumbo Shrimp Baseball, affordable family fun.
Hi, folks. Jason Parker here with Performance Painting. Ever wonder what to do with leftover paint that you don't want? Here's a few options. Paint can be placed in the regular trash if it's dry. Simply stir in kitty litter to a thick consistency. Then wait a few days with the lid off till it dries. Also, if the paint is good, there's many charities or churches that would love to have it. If you'd like more tips or have a project, we'd love to help. Go to performance-painting.com. Performance Painting. Repair, protect, preserve.
Performance Painting.
Guys, want a golf course fairway quality lawn? TopDressing.com just landed in Jacksonville with the golf course secret for St. Augustine grass homeowners. A patented process that aerates and turns your turf into a fairway stunner. Serious golf course technology, but in your yard. Less water, tighter cuts, total neighborhood domination. No one else scores a perfect 10 lawn. Hit TopDressing.com now. You will own the block. Top dress your yard like the pros with TopDressing.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Work it, make it, do it. Makes us all better, faster, stronger.
Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Yes, it is. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. We'll take you up till 10 o'clock as we do every night. Hacker After Dark right here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM. Coming up towards the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour, my buddy Brent Beard. You see him locally on First Coast News. You also get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. We'll talk with Brent about the SEC and the Big Ten. You know, they've been kind of in a partnership, right? Are they going to split off and join and do their own thing at some point, down the road, clearly the two biggest conferences in collegiate athletics. But is there trouble brewing between the SEC and the Big Ten? Maybe some more disagreements between those two conferences than we've had in quite some time. So we'll talk about all that, excuse me, with Mr. Brent Beard. Again, you see him on First Coast News. You also get him weekly here on Hacker After Dark. Also, my buddy Tom McManus, the original 55 of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I had the opportunity earlier on to catch up with Tom McManus, and we'll play you that conversation coming up here in the next 10 to 15 minutes or so. The United States soccer team has advanced. They beat Guatemala 2-1. They will be on Sunday in Houston, Texas now in the Gold Cup final, as they will await the winner of Mexico and Honduras. Mexico and Honduras kick off at about 10 o'clock Eastern tonight out in Santa Clara, California. Good win for U.S. soccer. It avoids a disaster, right? You couldn't lose to Guatemala in the Gold Cup semifinal on your home soil. That would have been very, very bad. So I don't think I'm relieved for the win as much as I'm relieved to not have to talk about a soccer disaster tonight. Now you're probably playing with house money, particularly if you get Mexico in the final. Again, this is not what I would call the A team of U.S. soccer. Pulisic, all the guys you're going to see at the World Cup, or at least most of them, are not on this roster. Some are. Some guys that will be in the World Cup next year are. But by and large, this is a lot of the young guys, the guys that might be in the World Cup in 2030 as opposed to 2026. It's great experience for them. And look, they beat Guatemala. They beat Costa Rica in the quarterfinals, so they advanced to the final on Sunday in Houston at NRG Stadium, where the Texans play. And again, they will play the winner of tonight's game later on between Mexico and Honduras. Big news in the world of basketball entertainment. Red Panda. I don't know if you saw this last night. I was vaguely familiar with her. She does a lot of halftime stuff at a lot of NBA games. I wouldn't call her necessarily a stunt operator, but she's the one on the big, what would you call that, Denmark? It's like a tricycle or unicycle? Unicycle, right? It's only one wheel. Had to be 10, 12 feet in the air. Does a lot of tricks, juggling and whatnot. Man, she went down last night. Absolutely fell to the floor. Has a, quote, severely broken wrist. That must have been really odd being in that arena last night of that WNBA game to see something like that happen. Certainly wish the best for her in recovery. Probably lucky it's only a broken wrist when you fall like that onto a hardwood floor. But Denmark, that is not something you expect to see at a halftime show at a WNBA game.
No, I remember a couple months ago at a Hawks game, someone, I don't know if they tore their ACL, like running. They ran from half court to do a layup, and they I don't know, they broke their leg or tore something bad. That's the last thing I can remember, but yeah, that unicycle, I mean, she flips plates up on her head, and I mean, she's pretty popular.
Oh, pretty popular, does a very good job. I can't ever remember anything like this happening, but you see the video last night, and they cut the feed after she fell. I mean, you could see that something went wrong in the routine, obviously. You can see kind of the panic on her face, and I don't blame her. She knew she was going down, and bam, falls 10, 12 feet onto the floor. Again, thankfully, to me, it's only a broken wrist. It probably could have been a whole lot worse. Again, Brent Beard, you see him locally on First Coast News. We get him weekly here on Hacker After Dark. We'll talk a little college athletics coming up in about 25 minutes or so. Coming up next, back end of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're 3 weeks away from Jaguar training camp. The original 55 of the Jacksonville Jaguars, my buddy Tom McManus, joins me next on a Wednesday night here in Northeast Florida. It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM.
Sports for 1,000.
The only sports radio station in Jacksonville worth listening to.
Who is 1010XL?
We have a winner.
Rick Ballou for Coy Dental. That's right, Carlson Dental is now Coy Dental. Dr. Lee has been practicing there for 9 years, has purchased the company. The Coy Dental team still has the same great dentists and staff. And remember, if you get nervous visiting a dentist, don't. There's never a problem at Coy Dental with light sedation for cleaning and deep sedation for all your restorative needs. Coy Dental, 2 locations in Jacksonville.
Hi, Zoe Saldana. Welcome to T-Mobile. Here's your new iPhone 16 Pro on us.
Thanks. And here's my old phone to trade in.
You don't need a trade-in. When you switch to T-Mobile, we'll give you a new iPhone 16 Pro. Plus, we'll help you pay off your old phone up to $800, and you still get to keep it.
There's always a trade-in.
Not right now at T-Mobile.
I feel like I have to give you something in return for karma.
That's okay.
I don't really have much in my purse. Oh, let's see. Hand sanitizer. It's lavender.
I'm good. Seriously.
Let me check this pocket. Oh, mints?
Really, I'm fine.
Oh, I have raisins. I'm a mom. Wait 1 sec. I've got cupcakes in the car.
It's our best iPhone offer ever. Switch to T-Mobile. Get a new iPhone 16 Pro with Apple Intelligence on us. No trade-in needed. We'll even pay off your phone up to $800.
With 24 monthly bill credits, new line $100 plus a month on experience beyond finance agreement $999.99 and qualifying forwarded. For well qualified plus tax and $10 connection charge. Pay off via virtual prepaid total of 15 days. Credits end and balance due if you pay off early or cancel. See T-Mobile.com.
After our son's shoulder issues were worsening, we took him to see Dr. Snyder at Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, who recommended PRP treatment. We trusted Dr. Snyder's evaluation and look forward to seeing him pitch again. For the right care, the best care, we highly recommend Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
Relieve pain and get back to life. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
Are you ready to reclaim your backyard? Serving Northeast Florida since 1977, Surfside Pools is the trusted name for expert pool design. Family owned and operated, they offer pool service, equipment repairs, commercial maintenance, remodels, and new pool construction. Let Surfside Pools transform your backyard into the oasis that you crave. Are you ready to float happy? Visit surfsidepools.net or call 246-2666. Surfside Pools and Spas, where luxury meets leisure.
License number CPC 044080.
When you want to be heard, send your opinion to the 1010XL text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures.
Thank you for believing in me when the bosses didn't give me a chance.
641-1010. No texting and driving. Get your thoughts heard on 1010XL.
Checkmate Coatings. Your floor's missing piece. Premium flooring. Take our advice. Home business. Affordable price. Driveways, pool decks, garage doors, beautiful patios, and more to explore. Checkmate Coatings. Your floor's missing piece.
What is the coldest temperature ever recorded on Earth? The answer next.
There's always a good reason to compare homeowners' insurance rates. You may be paying too much. Protect your home with a Southern Oak insurance policy today.
Our family protecting yours. Southern Oak Insurance.
The coldest temperature ever recorded was in Antarctica in July of 1983. An unbelievably cold minus 128.6 degrees.
Southern Oak Insurance. Our family protecting yours.
Hey, Hicken here, or just call me Dreamfinders Danny. For a limited time to ring in the new year, Dreamfinders Homes is offering an amazing 4.99% fixed interest rate. Now's your chance to lock down that rate and get in the game. You heard me right. It's 4.99 fixed interest rate on select move-in ready homes. Visit dreamfindershomes.com for sales event information and get in the game. Interest rate available on select move-in ready homes. Restrictions and limitations apply. Go to dreamfindershomes.com for more details.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, another great guest on the Checkmate Coatings phone line.
Hello.
Your floor's missing piece.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad You are with us. The Jaguar offseason in the rearview mirror. We are less than a month away from training camp and kicking off the 2025 season. Let's look back on what was arguably one of the craziest off seasons in Jaguar history. Let's look ahead to training camp as well with the original 55 of the Jacksonville Jaguars, former Jaguar linebacker Tom McManus. You hear him all over the 1010XL airwaves, and we're lucky enough to have him here on Hacker After Dark. Tommy, how we doing?
What's up, Hack? How you doing, buddy?
Tom, I'm good. Hope your summer is going well, man. And what about that? You know, I was talking to Brian Sexton and JP Shadrick about this last week. I mean, you're a former player here. You've lived here now for since your playing days. This offseason was wild, man. I mean, everything, one thing after another, day after day. How would you summarize the offseason in totality here in Jacksonville?
Well, it's a new beginning, you know, which makes people excited, you know, out with the old and in with the new. And, you know, it happened kind of fast, happened kind of wild, like you said. You know, Shad Khan went in a direction where, you know, he went for first-timers across the board, you know, from the head coach to having Tony DeCelli as an EVP, James Gladstone as a GM, the coordinators, et cetera. But, you know, with that comes a lot of hunger, I feel like that. So I feel like it's a new beginning, but it's a hungry beginning because they all know what we want in this town. And that's just a hard-working, ass-kicking, winning Jaguar football team. And we'll love you forever.
Tommy, you were out at OTAs. You were out at minicamp. It's obviously helmets and T-shirts, but that's all we have to go on right now. The newly signed Travis Hunter signed his contract yesterday. What did you see out of the Heisman Trophy winner out of Colorado?
Listen, he's fast. He's smooth. You know, he's got good hands. You know, he can play. Obviously, he's going to play both ways. You know, he's good. Listen, I mean, I just don't know. Like, I know people, you know, they watch me Colorado and they're thinking all these things, and maybe it transfers. Maybe it does. But I'm one of those. I just got to see it because, look, we all know who he was playing against in college. He ain't playing against them in the NFL. It's a totally different animal. But I like him a lot, and I think he's going to bring a lot of energy and a lot of juice. I do think, in my opinion, it sounds like a lot of guys are thinking more corner. But, man, let him complement our alpha number one in Brian Thomas Jr., and let that guy get one-on-ones. I mean, I'm telling you, that would be a tremendous weapon to have on the offensive side of the ball. And look, I'm looking forward to see what he can do at corner. You know, and it sounds like he, you know, he's got the goods to do it. So, you know, like everybody else, man, I'm waiting to see it.
Former Jaguar linebacker Tom McManus. Tommy, is it possible to do what they're talking about, playing a majority of the snaps on both offense and defense? Is that physically possible to do?
I think for him, it appears like he can run forever. So, yeah, I mean, it's all conditioning, you know, it's all conditioning and not polluting your body. I think that's part of it, you know, keeping everything clean and healthy. And look, I think he's young and he's got a lot of energy. And again, yeah, I think he can do it. If you're in condition, you can do it. Now, if he's got to tackle a lot, if he's got to come up and be the force, you know, like in cover two and the run game to his side, and he's got to get very physical. I think over time that's going to wear him down. But, you know, for what they're going to ask him to do, playing a lot of zone, off-ball coverage, if you will, and then get him in on offense, yeah, I think he can get it done.
Tommy, 2025 is obviously going to be an enormous year for Trevor Lawrence. And I hate to make excuses for the guy, but the reality of it is the last 6 years he's played football, this will be his fourth head coach. He's had 4 offensive coordinators. I mean, for crying out loud, Tom, this is the 3rd straight year he's had a different center, right? It's not exactly been a cup of tea during his NFL career. Having said all that, none of that probably is going to matter if he struggles in 2025. I mean, what's your thought on Trevor heading into the year?
First of all, look, I read, I think last week, Baker Mayfield has had like 8 different OCs in 9 seasons. You know what I mean? So I don't know how much I give any you know, any leeway there. Look, I think Trevor is he's in a pivotal year just as far as what he wants to be. Does he want to be a top 5 QB? Does he want to take that offense and put it on his back and march him down the field with the game on the line, you know, with getting into the playoffs or in a playoff game? I know he wants to do it, and he's got the tools to do it. He's just got to be more consistent, Hack. I mean, listen, you saw it during the offseason, all offseason. He'd make a wow throw where you're like, wow, that was a great throw. And then he'd miss 2 in a row that are wide open, and he should hit them no problem. And you're like, okay, here we go again. It feels like a little bit of the same. But I do believe with Liam Cohen, I think Liam Cohen's a straight shooter. I don't think he holds anything back. You saw that when Trevor came out with comments about his footwork earlier in the offseason. That came from Cohen. He knows he's got to fix that. He's got to work on that. So I think, look, if Trevor Lawrence can he doesn't even have to be top 5, all right? I throw that out the window. Just very good, right? I don't even need him to be great. Very good. Run an efficient offense. Don't turn the ball over too much and get us into the playoff chase. That's all I need out of Trevor Lawrence. And if he plays consistently, he can bring him to that level. And then from there, you never know what can happen once you get there.
A couple of more for former Jaguar linebacker, the original 55, Tom McManus. Tommy, you mentioned Brian Thomas earlier. We've talked so much this offseason about Travis Hunter, about Trevor Lawrence, but I got to tell you, man, for that 2-minute stretch during minicamp that Brian Thomas laid on the ground and we didn't know what the injury was, you could have heard a pin drop in the Miller Electric Center. Thankfully, he got up, walked off to the sideline. It turned out to be a shoulder, is what Liam Cohen said. He was back at practice the very next day. But that 2-minute, Tommy, when he was on the ground, that put in perspective for me just how vital Brian Thomas is to this whole situation.
Well, and here's the thing. We've seen him do it. He's a clear wide receiver 1. He's a clear X. He runs all the routes. Even the tough catches, can go deep, can take it to the house on any given moment from anywhere on the field. Will do the slant, will do the deep dig over the middle, runs a great out route. I mean, we didn't know these things when he first got to Jacksonville. We thought, okay, kid scored 17 touchdowns as a senior. I guess he can go deep and make some things happen. Well, guess what? He's a fully rounded, well-rounded wide receiver. And if he's not in the game, now that means Travis has got to become that alpha dog. I'm not saying he can't, but we already know that Brian Thomas can at an extremely high level. So you're right. He is pivotal. Look, I love Travis Hunter. I love the excitement. I love it. He's the number 1 player to draft. There's a lot of balls to go up and get him. I love it. I love all of it. But I'm still like, show me, but I got to see it. But I've already seen it with Brian Thomas Jr., and he is pivotal to the success of this offense and pivotal to the success of the team in 25 and moving forward. He is an absolute stud wide receiver number 1. And, man, we got to utilize him a ton because he's that good, in my opinion.
Tommy, we talk about chemistry on the offensive line, cohesiveness, familiarity, and the Jaguars went out and brought in 6 new offensive linemen, 4 in free agency, 2 in the draft. Certainly there'll be some holdovers from last year. There's going to be some position battles in training camp, no question about it, but what is your, level of concern, being a former NFL linebacker, about the Jaguar offensive line?
Well, I'm not concerned just yet because, in all fairness to them, that they haven't been in pads, and defense is going to look good without pads on because you can shoot gaps, you can use your speed, your agility, and that type of thing. But the equalizer is when they put the pads on, and hopefully Liam Cohen it sounds like from what I heard Tony talk about on the drill about being as physical as the league allows him in training camp. I hope that's true because there's only one way to find out what your offensive line is made of, and that's to get down and dirty and get mean and nasty, even in practice, even if it's for short periods of time. But you got to see what they bring to the table. Right now, I don't know, Hack. I really don't. And I don't think anybody does. You can tell me this, you can tell me that. But until we see these guys work together, first against their own in pads, then against the opponent, and then in a game, and then let's see what we have. Right now, I don't really know what we have up front. We got some names. I'm sure they're fine offensive linemen. Are they great offensive linemen? I don't know that yet. I don't think our tackles are great. I think they're good. I think they can be better than good. But right now, I think they're just good. The interior guys, I like Macari. I think Macari's an animal, and we need that. I'd like to see this young kid from West Virginia, Wyatt Millam, and see what kind of Milam. Sorry if I mispronounced that, Wyatt. You're much bigger than me, and I hear real mean and nasty, which is great. But you know what? I got to see that. Because let's be honest. If you do not protect your QB, and I'm not even just talking Trevor, we saw it in the Super Bowl. You don't protect your QB and give him time to at least make that first read throw, your offense is going to struggle, and it's going to struggle mightily. So I don't know about the offensive line. I'll tell you, I walked away from the offseason hack. I don't know how you felt, but I'm just like, I don't know. I didn't walk away going like, okay, this team's going to be dangerous. Oh, this is a contender. Oh, they're going to win the South. I'm just like, I don't really know, and I think a big part of that not knowing is not knowing how our offensive line is going to perform each and every week. And we're going to find out as time goes on. And we're going to find out who the starting five is once we get going in training camp.
Final moments with Tom McManus. Tommy, let's go to your bread and butter, the defensive side of the ball. Again, we're not going to know anything until the pads come on, until preseason games start. But Anthony Campanile, there's certainly an attitude there with him. Now, I'm not going to try to get too fired up because we were fired up about Ryan Nielsen last year, and that blew up in our face. But what are your early returns on Campanile and the defensive scheme?
Yeah, I got to meet Coach Campanile after practice one day. We had some things in common. He played at Rutgers. My dad played at Rutgers. He's a boxing historian, and my dad used to spar a guy named Two-Ton Tony Galento. He's like, yeah, here, I know Two-Ton Tony Galento because he fought in a gym out of Orange, New Jersey back in like the Great Depression era. No, I like him, man. And look, he came from Jeff Hafley, who was the Boston College head football coach. I got to know Jeff a little bit. Really regarded as a really bright-minded defensive coordinator. Anthony Campanile comes in with a lot of fire, a lot of knowledge, but a lot to prove. And look, you can look at that a couple different ways, but the way I'm looking at it is he's hungry, and you can tell he's hungry. I think they're all hungry, in their own kind of way. They all want to say, okay, yeah, well, we're first timers, we get it. Maybe there's a lot of doubters, maybe there's a lot of people that don't think we deserve it, blah, 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 whatever it is. Well, we're here to prove you wrong. And we're going to prove you wrong by winning. And we're going to get the right people in place with the right attitude and the right character and the right, nastiness and all that stuff that goes along with it. And we're going to provide this team and this league a winner. And I think they're hungry to do it. So I like Campanile. It's all going to come down to our front. I think our front four, with Mason Smith and Eric inside and the two studs on the outside, I think. Now, again, going back, who were they going against? Our O-line, who's not in pads. It looks like they dominated a lot. I know in the OTAs, that D-line was in the backfield like every play. I mean, it was ridiculous how many times they were in the backfield. No, O-linemen are finishing blocks. They're not doing all that stuff. But if our D-line is as formidable as I think it can be, I think we can have a really special defense. I really do. I think that front four can be quite dynamic, and I think Campanile is going to be aggressive enough to bring extra when needed, surprise them with some blitzes, and get after it. The only thing is, when you're a zone cover team, you really got to have pressure. I mean, you have to consistently pressure the QB if you're going to play zone in the National Football League.
Tom, final question. Coming off a 4-win, just disastrous season, coach is gone, GM's gone. I mean, the fan base is still unbelievably fired up. Rookie minicamp, the Miller Electric Center was sold out. Minicamp, it was sold out. It'll be sold out for training camp. The level of excitement in this city, and look, I'll give credit to Baselli for this and Shad and what he did with hiring Liam and James Gladstone, certainly. I mean, this could have gone much more south. I think back to that weird Zoom press conference with Balky and Shad at the end of the year after Doug was fired and where it ultimately landed, and to get the fans as fired up as they are. Man, if this team comes out there and performs well early in the year, it could be a lot of fun this season.
Oh, without a doubt. I'm going to credit the fans, Zach, because, look, I think regardless of who's out there, our diehard fans show up. They do it. Now, they're very excited because brand new stuff and everything that you said, and I totally agree with that. But our fans are football people, man, and they appreciate a hard-working, tough-nosed, winning football team that goes out there every single week, doesn't make mistakes, doesn't turn the ball over, doesn't play foolishly, just plays hard, sound football, and guess what? You're like butter in their hands, man, because they love football in this town. And I tell you what, I say this all the time. People laugh when I say it, and I'm not saying it as a joke. I feel like the Jaguars are such the epicenter of Jacksonville and Duval as a whole. It's like Green Bay without the championships, right? There's no NBA here. There's no NHL. There's no Major League Baseball, right? It's the NFL. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, we love all those other sports. We love the minor league teams. We love our college football teams. But there's nothing like the Jaguars that stir the heartstrings of this city than our team, man. There's no doubt about it. That's what makes playing in Jacksonville so special. And when we do start winning championships, whenever that will be, it'll make it even more special to be a Jacksonville Jaguar.
The original 55 of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Tom McManus. Tommy, I know every Friday on Jaguars Today, tell them about the podcast and where else they can find your work.
I appreciate it, buddy. Yeah, so podcast Catching Up with Tommy Mack. It's every Tuesday and Friday. I film it inside, for the most part, inside the 1010XL podcast studios. We put it on the YouTube channel, the 1010XL Jaguar channel, and then I share it all over social media and whatnot. I'm also, on Thursdays, I film The Horse's Mouth, which is now back on the CW. And we're looking at ABC and NBC, and we're taking it on the road, Hack. After 4th of July, The Horse's Mouth will be at Lynch's in Jacksonville Beach from 4:30 to 6:30 on Thursdays. And we're going to have a slew of celebrity types and all different types of guests that will come through.
Yeah, if memory serves, you and I have had an evening or two out at Lynch's back in the day.
Or 7 or 10. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I still occasionally frequent that place.
I don't doubt it. Tommy Mack, Tom McManus. Tommy, appreciate it, brother. We'll talk soon.
All right, Hack. Thanks, bud.
Tom McManus.
Well, what's he like? Big, tall, shoulders like an ox, has the strength of 10 men.
Fridays on Jaguars Today.
Oh, it's me, all right.
On 1010XL.
Hey, Jacksonville, I'm sure by now you've seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We are an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We are committed to customer service, reliability, and have unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today. GFL, green for life.
Bueller. Stay cooler with Bueller.
Hey, buddy. Why so glum?
Stinky ice cubes, Jason. It's all downhill from here.
What?
The tap water at my place smells kind of funky. Funky tap water makes funky ice cubes. I meet a nice girl, invite her back to my place for a cocktail, and blow my whole romantic gesture with a mojito that smells like dog's feet.
Wait, I can totally make you way cooler.
I'm not taking your charity ice cubes, Jason. I have my pride.
Your pride is safe. Our plumbers can be at your house the day you call and install a whole home water purification system. Water tastes better, dishes come out cleaner, even your hair feels better after you shower.
Ooh, the ladies love a man with soft hair, don't they, Jason?
Life moves pretty fast. If you spend every day worried about the water in your own home, you could miss it.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
I'm Stacy, and I want to tell you about my fogged up window fiasco at my house. I called up Mac at Baker Glass. He told me all I needed was a glass replacement. The process was so easy. All within a few days, they came out, measured, called me with an estimate, cut my glass, and came out to install the new ones. Now my view outside is fog-free thanks to Mac and his crew at Baker Glass. And my neighbors think I got some fancy new windows.
I'm back with Baker Glass. No one treats you better.
I'm with Greg from Cycles of Jacksonville, and Triumph has branched off from on-road to off-road. Give us the latest on what they've got.
They've got the 250 and the 450. Rick Carmichael designed these bikes himself, and they are bad to the bone.
So you're talking about a really cool effect from a bike off-road that Triumph had on-road forever.
It is, and it's out there winning races, and it is fun to ride.
Check it out, Cycles of Jacksonville, their showroom on Atlantic near Regency, or online on their Facebook page.
He's not Pistol Pete, he's Pete Prisco.
Been on the wanted list almost 20 years.
CBS Sports senior NFL writer Pete Prisco joins the Franchi Show Friday afternoons on 1010XL. Brought to you by Showtime Sports Cards and Collectibles.
Have you got concrete or asphalt rubble piling up? Arcosa Crushed Concrete will pay you for it and recycle it. They're just minutes from Everbank Stadium on Talleyrand. Call Arcosa Crushed Concrete and get paid for what you don't need. ArcosaCrushedConcrete.com.
You'll always feel good when you send someone a Kuhn Flowers floral or plant arrangement. This is RJ with 1010XL, and no matter what the reason, Kuhn Flowers has always come through for me. Order online at KuhnFlowers.com.
Hey, Hicken here for my friends at Zero Res, and this week only, we salute the 4th. Zero Res offering 25% off all services That's right, a fourth off for the 4th. Book online at ZeroVestJacksonville.com and take advantage of the savings.
With 50 years of fabrication expertise and towing products, the family at Cannons of Jacksonville can repair or install precisely what you need to tow with confidence. Visit cannonsofjacks.com, where quality and customer satisfaction collide.
Are you living with diabetic neuropathy? That pain and numbness in your hands or feet? What about chronic knee or shoulder pain? Maybe you've tried various treatments, but they've been ineffective. Now there's a solution. Dr. Ferdinand Formoso specializes in advanced pain management and offers breakthrough neuromodulation treatments for those conditions. His innovative treatments target the source of your pain, offering relief where medications may fall short. All procedures are performed outpatient with no hospitalization required. Just a chance for you to feel and live better. If you want to learn more, Dr. Formoso is hosting free informational classes where he'll explain the benefits of neuromodulation therapies and how they can help eliminate your pain. Spaces are limited, so call to reserve your spot now with offices on the South Side, West Side, and Jacksonville Beach. Relief is possible with Formoso Spine and Joint Pain Specialists.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, the Cool Down with Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing. Keeping Jack's cool since 1987.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us, and the month of July has arrived. We are, 2.5 weeks away from SEC Media Days. That'll be a heck of a lot of fun. That's kind of the unofficial kickoff of the college football season. We are now well inside of 2 months until the regular season gets here. Of course, it begins August the 23rd, and that's week 0, week 1, August 30th, with great games all over the country. Let's talk about all of it with my buddy Brent Beard. You see him locally on First Coast News, and we also get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. Mr. Beard, how are you, my friend?
Well, it's a interesting time of year. There's a lot going on. There's not a lot going on, but basically, from what I've heard, just about every team is off this week, and they will be back. But basically, for the rest of the year, next Monday, this is kind of across the board. By the way, you did mention week 0. It's not going to happen immediately, but sooner than later, week 0 is going to actually become week 1. So they're going to have to move the season up to begin. And the SEC Network is doing their thing for college football fans. And the SEC, they've got the SEC Network takeover that's going through this week and into next week. So that's a lot of fun to watch. If you're an SEC fan, your favorite team compete in men's and women's sports. And the great thing about the takeover is whoever your team is, whatever game they show, they win every game.
Yeah, 16 teams. It's 2.5 weeks, basically. The SEC Network does that 24 hours straight for each program. All right, Brent, I want to get into some friction perhaps between the SEC and the Big Ten in a moment. But before we do that, a couple of things jumped out to me earlier this week when ESPN.com released a mock draft for the NFL. And not so much about, what teams are drafting what players. That's all speculation at this point. But Florida had 3 first-rounders in this mock that Matt Miller put out on ESPN.com. Austin Barber, Jake Slaughter, and Tyreek Sapp were all in the first round. I was actually surprised Caleb Banks wasn't in the first round. I mean, you talk about Lagway, and I get it, Brent. He sells the tickets. He's the quarterback. He's the highlight reel. But to me, those 4 linemen, Barber and Slaughter on offense, Sapp and Banks on defense, all 4 would be in the NFL right now if they had not chosen to come back for their senior year. I think those 4 guys are just huge for Florida coming in here to 2025.
Yeah, they are, and that's really the reason why people are high on Florida would be, and the majority of the offensive line comes back, and I would say also because of their skill position players are probably as good as they've had in quite a while. So no doubt that that's going to make a difference. Slaughter may be the best center anywhere. So and optimism is high right now, and frankly, it should be, and that's a big reason.
You see Brent Beard on First Coast News. You also get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. And if that were to happen, I can't remember the last time Florida had 3 linemen on the line of scrimmage drafted in the first round. That might have never happened, to be honest. But that mock draft also told us about some SEC quarterbacks, Brent. And I want to talk about Lagway in a moment. But ESPN.com had both Garrett Nussmeier from LSU and Lenore Sellers from South Carolina being first-round picks in the 2026 mock that they put out. Is that the consensus, or are those two the consensus best quarterbacks entering 2025, yeah. Nussmeier and Sellers?
Nussmeier certainly is. I mean, he can make every throw. I mean, Nussmeier is a veteran, and people love Nussmeier. I think Nussmeier may end up being a top 10 pick, frankly. But I mean, first season as a starter, 4,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. And he's got an amazing amount of weapons around him. Also, Lenore Sellers, 18 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, ran for 7 scores. I mean, he's 6'3", 240. He's big and he's fast. I mean, he'll get drafted. But look, again, for these dual threats, as Sellers is, it comes down to how well they can throw the ball. And I don't care if they can throw it 80 yards. That really doesn't matter. What matters is, for Sellers, is can you complete 3rd and 8 in the fourth quarter in Baton Rouge? Mm-hmm. That's the thing that's important. I mean, there have been a lot of quarterbacks. Jalen Milroe from Alabama is another example of this. Can run 80 yards on any play, but throws the ball in the first row on 3rd down at times. So this is what Sellers gave us a lot. People want to see more as to what he could do with that too. I tell you, an interesting battle, and this is going to happen early. We mentioned Nussmeier. Well, Nussmeier goes to Clemson in the opening game, and Cade Klubnik is going to be a guy that everyone's going to be loving too. So that is going to be a real battle in last year. Klubnik, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 2-to-1 ratio is great. 36-6 is off the charts.
Yeah, Klubnik was actually the number 1 pick in that mock draft that ESPN.com put out earlier this week. Back to the SEC, we've talked about Nussmeier and Sellers. Let's branch out to the other quarterbacks in the conference, Brent. Obviously, that brings in DJ Lagway. That brings in Gunnar Stockton. But you also have the likes of Diego Pavia, who I love, from Vanderbilt, obviously.
Yes.
You know, Ty Simpson's taken over at Alabama. Certainly Arch Manning at Texas. How would you assess the quarterbacks outside of Nussmeier and Sellers as we enter 2025?
Well, I mean, there's some good ones, frankly, but there's a lot of potential. We don't know exactly how they're going to be. I mean, Ty Simpson, Alabama, spent 3 years earning this job, so he has been patient, he knows the system. He will certainly be more accurate than Jalen Milroe was, so that is in their favor. We don't know about Gunnar Stockton. He fits the profile, he fits the offense, but that would be interesting to see what he will be able to do on a yearly basis. That's why it's going to be so important for the Georgia running backs with Nate Frazier and the wide receivers like Zachariah Branch coming in from USC to play as well. I tell you another guy there that people really like, Torian Green at Arkansas. He's another dual threat guy, and you've got Bobby Petrino there that is done a great job with him. Lagway, Ryan, is as good as anybody, really. I mean, if he is healthy and he has a complete year, I mean, he may be the guy everybody's talking about by the end of the year because of his passing ability. Now, I mean, he can tuck it and run. And the problem is, I mean, lead to a hamstring injury like he did against Georgia. And a lot of people still think if he plays against Georgia, I mean, that thing was close late in the game, even without him, because they have won, and that's a real possibility. And you've got guys like this Aguilar kid at Tennessee who did really well at App State. And you've got, you mentioned Pavia. I'm with you. My brother described Pavia in the offense real well. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts, which means they'll gain, 3 yards and 4 yards and 3 yards. They're not going to just bomb you down the field. They're going to end up wearing you out, and that's why they were so good. So, frankly, there's a lot of unknowns, but the excitement for the quarterbacks in the league, I think this year is going to be really up there, and these guys deserve it.
Final moments with Brent Beard. You see him locally on First Coast News. You also get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. Brent, we've talked the entire offseason that the Big Ten and the Southeastern Conference were in unison, right? They were a tag team. Is there trouble in paradise between the two biggest conferences in collegiate athletics?
Well, they're disagreeing right now on the model. The Big Ten and Tony Petitti like this 4-4-2-2-1-3 model, and the SEC, the coaches more like the 5-11, five conference champions and 11 at large. So, and the interesting thing is the SEC ADs kind of more like the same model the Big Ten do. So they're still trying to figure this out, but they need to figure it out quickly. Frankly, the thing that's unbelievable here is they're not meeting face-to-face again until September the 24th. Now, hopefully they'll get a lot done via Zoom. But look, they've still got a deadline of December the 1st to decide if are they staying at 12, expanding to 14 or 16. Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, has even thrown out there that he is open to even staying at 12 temporarily. I don't think they'll do that. There's just too much money involved with this, with that to happen. So you're right. The two biggest conferences were in lockstep for a while, so they're a bit different now. And I'll be brief on this. Part of the reason the ACC, the Big Ten want the 4-4 model is because, and people would think this doesn't mean anything, but it actually does. The Big Ten, a lot of those teams are on the quarter system. So what they're trying to do, and this is the presidents and the chancellors, they're trying to get this kind of unified to where whatever they come up with, it matches their class schedules, what it amounts to. So hopefully something will be done quickly. But see, we've still got to decide on National Signing Day being moved up. The portal is going to be 1 week or 2 weeks. We've got OTAs they've talked about. So, and again, as a lot of folks know, as we like to say, the money has dropped this week into all the schools. There's $20 million from the House versus Nation lawsuit. So, what would normally be a quiet period is not. It's a dead period in recruiting, but it's not a quiet period overall. But heck, what I'm hoping happens is we'll get a lot more announced during Big Ten and SEC media days coming up soon.
Brent, as we say goodbye, I know December 1st is the deadline here. There's going to be a 12-team playoff this season. Then it's up in the air, and they got to figure out by December 1st what it's going to look like in 2026 and moving forward. Are you still of the opinion, when all is said and done, that it will be 16 teams in 2026?
Yeah, I just think there's too much money. I mean, the coaches probably would be happy to leave it at 12, but the athletic directors, they see an easy way to get another revenue stream, and that would be that. So money controls all this stuff, Hack. And I mean, look, they might keep it for one more year in 26 at 12, but sooner than later is when they're going to expand it. And whatever they do, it's going to be basically on a 5-year contract from 26 to 31 is the overall contract situation here. And by the time we get around to 30 and 31, we're still going to see some teams and expansion be happening very soon after that. So a lot of things still to figure out here.
And I lied. One last question. The 5-11 model, all right? We know what that is. That's pretty self-explanatory. 5 conference champions, 11 at-larges. That's the one the SEC seems to favor, at least the coaches. The Big Ten model, explain that real quick. The 4-4-3 thing, what does that mean?
Well, the 2 4s would mean that the SEC and the Big Ten would get 4 teams guaranteed.
Right.
And the 2-2 would be that the Big 12 and the ACC get 2 teams guaranteed.
Okay.
And then your 1 is going to be the non-Power 5, and your 3 would be at-large teams, which you can be guaranteed. One of those teams is going to be Notre Dame. But heck, could you also see in that 3 at large that the SEC and Big Ten, even though they've got 4 guaranteed, they still could get 1 more, right, and end up having say 5 teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's interesting between the 5-11 and the 4-4 deal. Look, whatever they want to land on, I don't really have a preference. Just hearing them out loud, I guess the 4-4, 2-2, 1-3 that you mentioned the Big Ten favors is maybe a little bit more interesting than just having 11 at-larges. But wherever it lands, if we end up with 16, Brent, college football fans are going to be happy.
Well, they will. And see, another thing with this, too, the Big Ten wants the SEC to go to 9 conference games. The Big Ten already is playing 9 conference games. The SEC is not. Again, coaches would rather probably stay at 8. I know some of them would be fine with going to 9. But, again, your ADs would probably love to go to 9, too. So that's yet another issue, right? That we could spend another 10 minutes on here. The issues that need to be decided before December 1 are almost endless, aren't they?
They are. That's why I'm very thankful in about 6.5 weeks we get to see some actual football being played. That'll be a very, very nice change as opposed to talking about all these meetings and whatnot. You see Brent Beard on First Coast News. You also get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. Brent, enjoy the 4th of July. Have a terrific week, and we'll talk again next week, pal.
Thank you, bud. Take care.
And thank you to my buddy Brent Beard. You see him locally on First Coast News. You also get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. Yeah, interesting, the Big Ten and the SEC. They've kind of been in harmony for a while. We'll see if some differing of opinions now begins to, I guess, take that away. But, again, I think ultimately the Big Ten and the SEC, they both know they're still controlling everything that goes on with college football. It'll be fascinating to see 5-10 years down the road if the Big Ten and the SEC stay within the confines of what we currently know now as college football, or could they potentially branch off and do their own thing? Obviously, the 16-team playoff, that's probably coming. That needs to get sorted out. A lot of interesting stuff, but I think I can speak for a lot of people out there. We're just ready to see some football in the world of college, and thankfully that's going to happen pretty soon. Week 0, August the 23rd, and, of course, that opening weekend, week 1, that gigantic weekend on August the 30th. So we certainly talked a lot about some college football tonight. Our NFC South preview continued, talking about the Atlanta Falcons and their offseason. We're never going to get too far away from the Jacksonville Jaguars as well, as we're 3 weeks away from training camp. And we spent some time on the Florida Gators and the recruiting that they've been on, the recruiting hot streak that they've been on as well over the last couple of weeks. That will just about do it, man. Very, very busy Wednesday night edition of Hacker After Dark. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM. And we do have a ton of people to thank. Again, my buddy Brent Beard. You see him locally on First Coast News. You also get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. Thank you to Tom McManus, the original 55 of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Always enjoy catching up and previewing Jaguar training camp with Tom McManus. Thank you to John Michaels, 680 The Fan up in Atlanta. He's my guy when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons. As our NFC South preview continues, we've now made stops in Tampa, in Carolina, and tonight in Atlanta. We will round it out tomorrow night with the New Orleans Saints. And then back in hour number 1, David Waters of the Gators Breakdown podcast. Always love having David on to talk Gator recruiting, football, and all the assortment other things that we do with the host of the Gators Breakdown podcast. Now, we will be back tomorrow. Again, I'm sitting in with Hayes Carline on the Frangie Show at 4 o'clock, and then we'll be right back here to round out the week. We're off on Friday for 4th of July, obviously, but I'll be right back here tomorrow night to close out the week here on Hacker After Dark, beginning at 8 o'clock. Dylan Denmark was your producer tonight. Dylan, great job as always. I'm the hacker Ryan Green. And again, Jacksonville, thank you for spending part of your Wednesday evening with us right here on Hacker After Dark on 1010XL and on 92.